Welcome to the Cherish and Conquer podcast, the show dedicated to celebrating female entrepreneurs' strength, resilience, and innovation. Be inspired by stories of women and what they cherish to help them conquer against all odds. Every other week, you will learn from remarkable women on how they navigate challenges, uphold their values, and create sustainable success. And now, here's your host, Jim Rembach.
Hello and welcome to the Cherish and Conquer podcast. I'm looking forward to our conversation today because I've had the opportunity to get a little bit of background about her. She spent some time in Chicago. I grew up in the Chicago area.
Oh, where? Where in Chicago?
I was actually in Northwest Indiana, up in the suburbs, up in Northwest Indiana. But we lived there until I was 16 years old, and then moved down south and have been down in North Carolina and Tennessee for pretty much the rest of that time. But some very fond memories, love to go back. And I know you're in Silicon Valley now. And before we get to talking about all of that, I just want to let everybody know that you're going to get the opportunity to get different perspectives and also get new ideas on how you could leverage partnerships, get an idea on how you can, as Anya is doing right now, Anya Cheng her business is kind of doing both sides of servicing, meaning they're selling a product to men, and you're going to learn a little bit about that in a second. And then also she's working with the manufacturers in order to help them to be able to better identify what men want. So, and I'm sure there's more to it that she's going to share. And before we get into all of that, Anya, if you can, first of all, welcome to the show. Thank you very much.
Hi, everyone. This is Anya Cheng from the Bay Area. Before starting Taylor, I was at Meta, where I helped build out Facebook, Instagram shopping. I was at eBay as a head of product for the new business in the US and new market in Latin America, Africa, Asia. As a senior director at McDonald's, helped them to build out food delivery business globally and similar to Uber Eats when the food delivery business just started, and helped Target to build its tech office here in Silicon Valley. And I'm excited to be here.
Well, and she's also been recognized as one of the girls in tech 40, under 40, and has also had a lot of other accolades. But Anya, before we get into understanding a little bit more about your journey and some of the things that you've had to overcome in regards to challenges and how you're, actually, quite frankly, I think, you're building something that can have generational impact. Tell everybody how you are impacting the lives of the people who you work with today.
Yeah, I think on the one hand, definitely Taylor is in the business for sustainability. We are AI-powered menswear rental company. We use AI to pick clothes for busy man, lazy man, and then send them real clothes for them to wear for a couple of weeks. Once they are done, they send back the dirty clothes. We wash them, circular fashion, we send to other people. So no more shopping or laundry for men. However, fundamentally on the supply side, we're actually solving the problem that today 30% of clothes in the world go directly from factory to landfill. 10% of carbon emission in the world are from fast fashion alone. Fashion waste is a real problem in the world and real bad for the environment. And why? Because most of the guys, they buy the same thing again and again. So for fashion brand, it's extremely difficult for them to find new customers. And also for a lot of international brands, they may be amazing in Italy, amazing in Turkey, or in Southeast Asia, but they're just extremely hard for them to find a new market. And they don't know marketing. They are really good in making great quality product. But after distributions and wholesale and the small company, and then eventually after 5 hands landing on customers' hand, they have no clue what's real feedback. And that's why those junk will keep being produced and overproduced, and maybe just simple small fix can actually get a product very well for a right customer. So that's on the other side. We help them through this rental platform. Now the customers can try with AI, pick something for them, and they can try something new. And if they don't like it, they all just only need to wear for a couple of weeks, and they can try something different next time.
Well, and as you're talking and some of the things that you're saying, there's some root reasons in regards to why men don't explore, men don't do certain things from a fashion perspective. Like for me, I'm an oddball in that I'm 6'4", but need an athletic cut And most of the time when I find tall men's things, it's either meant for someone who's much wider. And so I have this big balloon effect of garments in my in my chest and belly area, and the different types of options. I mean, it all pretty much looks the same. And so for me, I don't know where to go. So I think you bring up a really interesting point. I also wonder, when you start looking at tailor, and let's make sure that we clarify, tailor is actually spelled Taelor, and you can find out more information about them at Taelor, Taelor.ai, is how many of the customers that you have for men are actually women who are ordering for them?
Yeah, that's a great question. People constantly ask us that, who are your competitor? We say, oh, wife. But people say, okay, who are your best ambassador? We say, oh, wife. So you're right. A lot of guys are actually referred by women's rental subscription user, and people maybe know about Rent the Runway or Newly by Urban Outfitter. There are actually already more than 10 companies in the woman space, including Ralph Lauren, Express, Banana Republics, and so many different brands all have get into the movement of circular fashion. So women are definitely a lot more familiar with the concept. And so a lot of them actually refer their husband, and in fact, a lot of them buying Valentine's Day gift cards we speak, and to help their friends and families and to get ready for their days. So starting from, we even have people on sending people to a graduation gift to help them get ready for their new careers, or as a congratulation for someone who got promoted because now they are managers and they may be a lot more cautious on their outfits. Or people like you who are podcast hosts or influencer, they do constantly have to meet people, or teacher, professor, pastor, recruiters. They constantly have to meet people, but they don't want to spend time chasing after clothes. We also have people who are just using the service for the shows. So they found that, in Hollywood, not every show were really sponsored by certain brand, or even for the sponsored brand, it may not be perfect for the outfit for the show. So then we have 300 brands on the platform, over 20,000 garments. So then they were able easily be able to get something that right for the show. So it was heavily influenced by the women for sure. And in fact, I started a business because my own pain point as a woman. I was a head of product for Facebook shopping and eBay's emerging market. But most of my team are a guy. So I actually feel a little bit imposter syndrome. Like, would they feel that I'm a great boss, and will they feel like I am capable and qualified for this role? So I feel like the best way to start, at least I look like it and I'm ready, even though I'm freaking out behind, but at least I look ready. So I try some subscription boxes like Stitch Fix. Those boxes, that it's great that someone picked for you, but you have to buy before you can wear. So I didn't want to own that much stuff. So then I tried rental company like Newly by Urban Outfitter, which is a profitable unicorn just 4 years. But all of those rental company require you to pick your own thing, which will take hours. And there was an aha moment for me. Wow, fashion company, I'll design for people who are into fashion. How about for people who are busy and lazy? I just want to get ready for the week and successful. I don't want to spend time chasing after clothes. So, but after done the research, who hate shopping, hate laundry? Guys. So turned out to be a menswear business.
Myrina.ai draws inspiration from the legendary Amazonian Queen Marina, embodying resilience and strategic brilliance. With our AI-powered SaaS platform, we equip women-led businesses for success in the evolving landscape of AI and business automation. As a partner and community for female-led businesses, Myrina.ai maximizes their potential using AI while providing essential support. Ready to amplify your success using AI with like-minded ladies? Register or learn more at Myrina.ai. And now, back to our interview.
Well, I mean, and you're dead on. And so I think you bring up some really interesting findings in regards to knowing who your target is and finding that right market fit and what has it evolved to today. But before we get into that even a little bit more, I'd like to get a better understanding, because when you look at, from a business perspective, business funding, it's a vast, Well, it's a massive gap between what men get in regards to funding for their business and what women get for the funding of their business. And then when you throw in the fact that you're Asian, I mean, you start looking at all of these things that would absolutely, I would say, cause you to say, well, you know what? I don't know if I'll be successful at this. Should I even try? And going back to that imposter syndrome piece. So I would love to hear your perspective on overcoming all of that so that you were able to get the funding and launch this business and grow it to where it is today and where it's going to continue to grow.
You are absolutely right. It's, and even though I have been like girls in tech for the under 40 or led large teams at tech company, in fact, last 10 years, I didn't feel much that there's much disadvantage for women. Besides that, I always find myself, especially the last 5 years when after build out my career a little bit more, I did find myself being the only few women leaders on the team. However, I never felt that was truly a disadvantage until I start my own company. It's sad to say, but today, as you guys know, today in the US, there's 50% of business are actually start by at least one woman who are in the founders. And in Silicon Valley, 30% of tech companies are founded by at least one woman as in the founders. And only 1.8% of the companies founded by women actually get venture capital this money. 1.8%. And it's actually down from 2.1% last year, like 2 years before. It's extremely difficult. And I didn't know that until that I was curious why that when I reach out where people introduce me to certain VC firm and people who get back to me are always mostly a lot of minority. They may not be women, but I see people with colors or minority immigrants or women. So I was curious about why, and then I realized that maybe it was true. There was a little bit more bias or stereotype. So it will be at one point I feel very down and feel like why this is not fair. But then I switch my thought. I think, hey, if the world is favor of majority, then how about I team up with every minority? Why not? There's so many minority in many sense. If you think of just besides people with color, besides immigrants, besides women, there's a lot of definition of minority. Many people will think they are minority in some aspect. So we start finding investors who are Asian Americans, who are from Taiwan, which is where I originally from, who are women, who are people with color, African Americans, who are immigrants from Italy and from Turkey and from Singapore and Japan. So yeah, if the world is measured majority, how about I team up with every single minority? Then I am the majority. So that's how I told myself, and end up it works. We have plenty of amazing leaders as our investors, as our partners on the team, and turned out that I so far so good. And it's not easy, but I'm sure you can find your own minority team and team up together.
Okay, I think that's a master class in reframing, because even when I was watching your YouTube video and you were talking about finding a job, you had mentioned that you weren't getting any responses. You had difficulty just, even getting any type of attention whatsoever. And then you reframed it and said, I'm a journalist, and you started actually using some of that type of skill in order to get in, which to me, again, that reframing, where did you learn that?
I think so. It just I didn't know that, but later on I found out that people constantly ask me like, Anya, you seems really resilient, because the story that you mentioned was I graduated from Northwestern University with my master's degree in 2008, right after Lehman Brothers went bankruptcy. So there was no job anywhere. And I didn't get any job from even my school. So I had to wait outside the building for other school. And then when they walk out of the building, I give them my resume. And people say, you are crazy. But is it for someone who before went to graduate school? I was a reporter. So for me, I don't think it was crazy or not. It was more of using something that you are good at. And I'm sure everyone, what you are good at is different from what I'm good at. Everyone has something uniquely that you are really good at. So by doing so, doesn't mean that I get a job. In fact, I didn't get any interview. It was a really dumb idea, but it gave me a hope. And that hope carried me to continue to try again. And many success were just because you try and you learn and you adjust and you try, you learn and you adjust. And eventually, you were just the failure or just a practice of success. Right? The same thing when I was people told me you should go to New York because New York has more job than Chicago because it sounds it's bigger city. So I went to New York and I start cold calling 2,000 alumni that I found from alumni district. And people say, again, this is crazy. But it wasn't crazy for someone who was a reporter before, because my job before was start reaching out to people, say, hey, can you tell me more about this point of view, right? Or I was trying to go to a conference because there are more people in conference. So it seems it's a little bit faster than just cold calling one by one. But the conference ticket are all super expensive. So I talked to a magazine in Taiwan and said, hey, can I interview this conference for you for free? Then I called the conference, say, hey, I'm a reporter from Taiwan. I want a press ticket for your conference. And I got in. So again, people think this is crazy. It's too hard. It's probably really hard for you, but not for me. But I'm sure it will be something really easy for you that will be really hard for me, right? Because I was a reporter, so interviewing a conference is pretty easy. So think about what you are good at, and that strength give you a courage, so then you can keep going. And the same thing, for example, I was really interested in working for a magazine company or media company at the time. And I was really dumb because I didn't know there's no marketing job in media company, because I got a master's degree in marketing and I was a reporter. So I thought the best job would be marketing for a media company. But when was the last time you see billboard of CNN? Right? They are media company. They don't need to do marketing. So I didn't know. But what I did was I went to Over Newsstand and I bought the newspaper, and on the paper there's a phone number. Say if you want advertise, call this number. And you also have publisher name, right? So there's a starting point. There's a name, there's a number, right? So I call each one of them, and surprisingly end up I met with all of them. Founder, like CEO of New York Times, VP of CNN, but none of them have any job. And eventually I back to Chicago. And even though I didn't get any job, but I learned a lot. So I assembling what I have learned, I put together a business plan. I didn't know what's founder. And now looking back, I realized I was doing something founder will do. So I put together a business plan, and then I pitched to a company, say, hey, you are a small magazine company. This is what CNN and ESPN are doing. And I think you should do this. And if you want to do this, you need someone who has marketing degree and ideally not very expensive, just out of college. And I happen to know someone. Anya Cheng, I happen to know someone. So she said, you are great. I can hire you as a contractor. And I didn't know what that means. I said, yes. I went home, I Googled contractor. My English was so bad, and I didn't know why she want me to be a plumber. But I got my job as a contractor to start.
I love your energy.
Yeah, English is hard. Who knows? A contractor is a contractor. It's like she said, you want me a contractor? I said, okay, I can be a contractor. I Google, I don't know. Why do you want me to be a contractor? Anyway, if you were there to hire me, I dare to take the job. So.
I love that. So, but I think the point is there are no barriers for you. You don't see barriers. You see something to navigate. You see something to overcome. You see, iteration. You see innovation. You see, and that's where, someone, you had mentioned even yourself, is that whole resilience piece is like, okay, I just bumped into a wall. How do I get around or over? And to me, that, like I was saying, is that's a skill. I mean, that's a skill that needs to be continually built and honed over time, but it has to start, somewhere. And there's also influences that we have throughout our life that we can look at and say, okay, they're modeling that for me, and I can follow that, and maybe even take it to the next level. So, what influenced you at a young age to be that resilient?
I think so. Everyone has some superpower. You just have to find it. And for me, I do think my first job, which is more than 20 years ago, then as a reporter, that's really helped me, because it's about not be afraid of unknown, right? So I think being founders and entrepreneurs, we are all building something that tackle the unknown, right? So if you look at the here in Silicon Valley, how we build product, it's all about unknown. So when when we interview product managers, we don't ask them much about their experience. Why? Because experience is the past, but we are building a product that haven't exist yet. So your experience is less relevant. So we tend to ask people about the logic of, okay, if you are a product manager of the feature birthday, what feature would you build? And if you say, okay, I will build a feature of AR, VR, or AI recognize and remind you a birthday, if you say the solution right away, then you fail. We tend to ask you, we don't get you past the next stage of interview. Why? Because company here, when we are building product, it's all about how you think, not about the right solution. It's about how you think. And also it's a pool of amazing leaders who all came from Ivy League and very successful. So it's extremely difficult to convince someone your idea, but you can convince someone your logic. And I think the same thing for entrepreneur. Like when you talk to investor, they know nothing about circular fashion. They know nothing about consumer technology. They say they do. In fact, they don't. They have no clue, right? But it's all about if they buy into your logic. For example, people say, oh, your company is the same as women's rental company, and I see rent around where the stock price sucks, so I'm not giving you money. When I ask them, what women's rental company are the problem they are solving? They are solving people. Women want to wear different things every day. That's why we rent. We don't want to wear different things. We want to wear different things every day. But for the guys, the men's rental business, guys are here to save time. They don't want to wear different things every day. They just want someone to pick for them. They just want to get ready for the week, and they don't want to do laundry. They don't want to do shopping. So fundamentally, it's a different business. Therefore, our customer, every shipment 5 items go out, 1 or 2 items get sold. And number one feedback from them is, please sell me more stuff. Why? Because we are like their executive assistant. If your assistant can only order lunch, but they cannot cut YouTube video, they cannot book meetings for you, it's not a great assistant. You want your assistant to do as much as possible. In the same thing, our guy will ask us, where do I get my haircut? What's Valentine's Day gift should I buy? Where should I get these shoes or accessories? Should I get any accessories? So they rely on us because they want to save time. So the more that we sell to them, we save time. And I cannot convince them, say, this is a great business, but I can convince them with the logic. And I think that's what really make this difference on the talents and how you can be more resilient or getting less challenges, so that you feel that you can keep going because you're convincing someone with your logic.
Well, even, okay, you're saying logic and all of that. So for me, I'm hearing you have to be very curious. That's one thing. Going back to that whole, resourcefulness, looking at options, perspective taking. These are also all emotional intelligence skills. And you talk about, guys, and really it's all about the heuristics. Give me the shortcut. Just send it to me, right? I'm going to give you a little bit of information, but then you need to take over from there. But I think we're starting to see that more and more in both genders, right? I don't have time to do all this other stuff. I mean, I'm looking at my wife of 30 years who has a job, and even today I was talking to her. She goes, like, I have 8 meetings back to back to back to back. Well, we also have her mother, her elderly mother, who's in an adult home that's close to us, and her 2 sisters. One lives in Manhattan, the other one's out in Seattle. So needless to say, my wife's having to do all that. We still have a child in high school. I mean, so if, and she's like, I don't have time for any of this to even work out for myself. I'm like, one of the things I jokingly say that if my wife was in a relay race, she would be disqualified every time because she doesn't pass the baton. And I'm like, there's all kinds of people who would help you, but you have to be willing to pass the baton. And so when I start looking at what you're doing and going through the business, and you talk about team members and interviewing, how do you know when to pass the baton?
At the core of Myrina.ai is customization and the innovative AI you process, which uses AI to infuse your personality, style, and vision into cloning you and growing your business. Are you ready to amplify your success using AI with a community of fellow female entrepreneurs? Go to Myrina.ai today. And now, back to the interview.
Yeah, I think the first thing is that you have to trust yourself, right? So if you don't even believe that you can, it will be really hard for other people to believe you. And it's not easy. When I started a company, it was after more than 15 years of experience in corporate. And I was already worked my way up in at least middle management in huge Fortune 500 companies. And but even after starting being a founder, I found that when I go to Chamber of Commerce, people don't talk to me because it was a reality check. When I was at Meta, everyone look at my business card. They want to talk to you because either they want to do business with you or either they want to get a job in Meta. And so they were all very kind. And after I became a startup founder, I started realize people look at your business card and say, "Oh, you're a startup founder." They turn around and start talking to other people. Or people may even say, "Oh, Anya, you should talk to this person," not because they want you, they were very nice to connect you with someone. They just want you to get away so then they don't need to talk to you, so they can talk to someone else who are more of like high up successful founders who already exit their companies. So at the beginning, wasn't easy because it was a lot of confidence crashings. I'm nobody. I start over. But then an example, when I went to a startup competitions, it was really helped me to realize I have to overcome it because I went on a startup pitch. So I found 42 formal judges to practice. I said, "Hey, Jim, I know you are a formal judge. You are no longer a judge, so I can ask you a question. Can I do a mock interview or a pitch to you?" And then 42 times, and my pitch was perfect. I went on the competition. After the pitch, the judge asked me a question. I heard the question. I was stunned. Why? Because all in my head, I was thinking, "Oh yeah, this question, judge practice 37 asked me this question, and I put the answer in appendix number 26. I didn't believe that I could answer the question. I was all searching like the students in the open book exam. I was searching the answer. And then I failed. I lost the competition. I went home. I look at the video again. Of course, I know the answer. It was such a simple question. So I think the first thing that you have to overcome and how was like, usually there will be a small voice in your head. You cannot do it. You cannot do it. If you don't shut it down, the voice will be louder. You cannot do it. You cannot do it. So the trick is you have to shut it down when it's small. You cannot do it. No, I am really good. I may be a first time startup founder, but I have 15 years of experience. Yes, I may be a minority. I may be from Taiwan and I'm a woman, but there's plenty of immigrants in the US. There's enough money for me to find for founding my startup. And we did. We got two amazing VCs who are the backer of 20 unicorn like Lyft, Instacart, Spotify, Facebook, TikTok, and those amazing companies. So eventually we did. But I think it was really, really hard during the journey, and you are not alone. Even for me, and it was really extremely hard. And still, every single day, I have to back in our interns, say, "Oh, please don't go internet, Google, come join us every single day." When I feel like, okay, my confidence is back, it crash again. My confidence back, it crash again. So it's just an ongoing exercise.
Well, I think that's a great, again, great insight, great perspective to share and talk about how, you have to, you have to be very stern with yourself sometimes. So I went through certification process and became certified as a mental performance master coach. And the reason I went through that process is because I'm also a baseball coach, and I focus in on pitching. And even though I was helping these kids with their skill, we still kept bumping into the whole mental side of the game. can I do this? Can I deliver? Can I finish? Can I, all of those types of things. And it was the biggest hurdle for them to get over to have the success that they want. And one of the things, like you said, I think is so important. I told them, I said, look, everybody has little voices that talk to them. And even when you say that to certain people, they're like, you get this deer in the headlights type of thing. Like, what are you talking about? We all have the voice. And sometimes there's multiple voices that we have. So we all have voices, and we need to tell them to shut up. I got work to do. And so that's what you were saying. I need to shut it down. I need to stop it. I need to, really refocus and reframe, like we talked about, so that I can accomplish what needs to be accomplished. So thank you again for sharing that. Okay. So when you start talking about your business, how do you ensure that your business practices align with your core values and ethics?
Yeah, I think so. We actually I'm teaching at Northwestern University, and there's a course actually alongside my course was about tech ethics. I think so for us, it's many times is back to fundamentally think from the other side, right? So are you doing this? Is it for you or is it right for the other side? And as long as there's a good intention, you tend to be able to make good judgments. And so think about what's the other side it's about. It's pretty important. And I use word for meta, and people, I share a story on that. So it's known for a very data driven company. In fact, some people think people they are evil. I can tell you I don't think so. I think everyone there are like overachiever, very similar to the Hermione in the Harry Potter. Everyone in the company are like that. They just work really hard and try to do good things, but also trying to make sure they are successful and the company is successful. So for example, the company is known for data driven, which is people say, oh, that's a great characters and you don't have politics, you are data driven. But there was a feature called 10 years of today. You probably seen it on Facebook, right? So for most people, it's an amazing feature. Talk about, oh, wow, your kids were so small at the time. Oh, wow, you have a lot more black hair at the time versus gray hair now. So people joke about that and found it fascinating on the memory. But what if someone lost their kid 10 years ago? Then every year you get reminded a year last year that this date a year before, this date 2 years before. It's a horrible feature, right? But if you are a data-driven company, it's be extremely hard for these features being prioritized because how many people being impacted? Very small amount of people, right? So the feature was there for a couple years. People complained, but it never made it to the roadmap and never get it fixed and optimized. So many times you just have to take a step back and really think like a humans and not just thinking about the numbers. And sometimes you may have to make decision that how I calculate doesn't feel right. But if you are doing the right things, then eventually the ROI will be bad because ROI, how ROI being calculated is return on investment. But most of the time, investment you see right away. Like when I went to graduate school at Northwestern University from Taiwan, my mom is a housewife. My dad is the factory worker. We have took down plenty of loan in order to go there. And people tell me like, is ROI positive? Of course, when I calculate the time, it's not positive, right? I was a reporter. What a master degree in marketing can do if I go back to Taiwan as a reporter. I don't know. I don't think it's helpful at all. My relationship with Mayor was helpful. And in fact, studied 2 years, if I go back to Taiwan, the relationship get cold. It's definitely now ROI positive. But at the same time, the return is in the future. It's an unknown. So how can you really calculate ROI? Because you are calculating something of unknown compared to what you know of investment today. And if I didn't do that, I won't be here today, right? They opened the door for me to find the first job in the US. And then I worked for Sears and then Target recruit me from Sears. I opened the office here in Silicon Valley. Then McDonald's say, you have amazing experience. Can you do the same? Open the office in technology for us in Silicon Valley and start doing something globally. And eBay say, oh, you have global experience. Can you come and lead this business for Latin America, Africa, for us as a product guy? And as someone from Taiwan, I led the business for product for Mexico and South Africa. It wasn't feasible if I didn't have the opportunity to unlock another opportunity. So back to your question on the edit, I think it's just take a step back and thinking about from the other side, are you doing the right decision for the other side or just for yourself?
Well, you also take that and look at it from the perspective, of the humanity. I mean, so when you were talking about the whole return piece, most ROI calculations are based off of something similar. So I'm going to look at, and this is what people end up doing because they can't calculate even the VCs. And it's like, and you even said it. They will say they're familiar with something, but they're actually not. But they're going to look at models, and all of those models are based off of postmortems, meaning what has already happened. There is no projections. There is no, things associated with speculation. They don't want that. They want to eliminate that. And that's what we do, and we're conditioned to do that as people. So that's why, I've always had a book, but I never really wrote it. I wanted to start a business, but I never really did. And it's that whole unknown piece. But I think the linking factor of, and to me, listening to you through all this is you really deeply understand how people work, and you test it if you're not sure. You don't sit there and say back, well, no, that's not going to work, and discount yourself. You're like, well, let me see.
Yeah, I think that's most of founder. But one thing is I love your comments on VC tend to pick the companies before. So which it sounds doesn't make sense, right? Because the reason we're starting a company because we're building something that haven't been done before. And because or something has been done, but it failed before. That's why we have a new solution for that, right? But then you are comparing me to the one that failed before. It doesn't make any sense. But on the other side, for VCs, like, oh, wow, but that's a closer comparison I can get. And then probably the best judgment of history should always teach us something. So what I found was helpful. There are two things helpful. Number one, get the elephant out first. So if you look at the pitch from Sandbox VR, so Siki, who is a founder of, was a former CEO of Sandbox VR, when he pitched, it was at the time when AR, VR was horrible in terms of ROI. VC hates AR, VR at the time. So he started his pitch, even though it's an AR, VR company, Sandbox VR, he started his pitch, say, AR, VR has been disappointing. What? Isn't that you are trying to ask me to invest in an AR, VR company? But if you don't bring the elephant out first, then from the room, then everyone was just waiting. They were waiting for you to finish and disagree with you. They were not listening, right? So he said that it has been failure, but why? Why? Oh, it was because at that time, the technology didn't allow you to have wireless. So you may have to play AR, VR, but you always wire. So it wasn't feasible to be able to walk around the room or play around with other people in the room. So it will be a fun team building exercise versus you deal with AR, VR. And he says, so that we actually do this. And that's why it was a failure, but it should work this time. The same thing for us. We look at the rental company. So we say, hey, if you look at Rent the Runway, it started 15 years ago, but newly by Urban Outfitters start 4 years ago, now is already profitable. But fundamentally, because there's one thing different in between, which is the inventory cost is different. Like Rent the Runway is a lot higher. So if you rent Burberry, how many times you need to rent in order to get the money back? But if you look at the newly, they have more reasonable price items, so profitable right away. But fundamentally, women's rental companies are still about women wear different things every day, while men's company is about saving time. So you should compare us to lazy economy company, not woman or clothing rental company. You should compare us to circular fashion company or research company, because we actually help brand to get unique data, so then they know how to produce better products. So you should compare us to someone under Nielsen, not clothing company. We are actually a data company. Now, so you have to find the elements that they have a comparison. You have to build a logic on why I should compare this to a research company versus a fashion company.
Well, and again, it still goes back to you look at the human and then you figure out the proper frame and leverage it appropriately to get people thinking the way that you need them to think. And the key is, if you look at, downstream, you're not doing it for ill will, because you can easily do that same practice and take people's organs, but that's not what you're doing, right? You're helping the world. You're eliminating some of this garment waste and things that are creating. You're giving a market and consumer intelligence to these companies who are creating these products and giving them exposure where they may not have been able to do it before, and you're serving a customer that wants a shortcut. Just take care of it, right? Just do it. So I think when you start looking at you in the center and all the places that you can turn around and pivot and look at, you're looking for, like you were saying, the win and them and the opportunity, which ultimately comes back to your success. And I think that's just beautiful.
Yeah.
Absolutely beautiful.
Thank you so much. I think so. Everyone has these type of stories. You just have to reframe it differently and then pick it up again tomorrow. And remember, not every day is a win. So one day I told my boyfriends at the time and now and my husband, I said, hey, I feel like for this competition I lost, and I'm the horrible, I'm the least successful in this pitch. And he said, okay, then you are number one in least successful in this pitch. You're still number one. And of course it was a joke, but I was okay, you are funny, but okay, I feel better. Think differently. Yeah, you are number one in this. You have to done this so many times, but you got a chance to practice more time than other people, right? Think slightly differently. Then at least you got another day to pick yourself up, and tomorrow is a new day. And look at Curry. Like Curry is one of the best players on history, but he doesn't get every 3-pointer score. He failed so many times in every single game.
Absolutely. Okay, so now it's time for our Breakthrough Blitz. Okay, Anya, the Breakthrough Blitz is an opportunity for you to answer a few quick questions with quick answers, so you can actually share some of the insights that you've learned so far. So first question is, what's your favorite productivity tool or app?
It's actually paper. I like to write down 3 things every morning, and at least I need to finish the 3, and the rest I can free flow.
What's your favorite way to unwind after a busy day?
I hold my cat, so I complain to my cat.
If you could have dinner with any female business leader, living or deceased, who would it be?
I think I really want to. Oh, there's a hard ones. I will talk to Michelle Obama. I want to know how does African American women can overcome challenges as a minority.
What's your favorite quote or mantra that keeps you motivated?
Use your strengths so you don't give up.
What's one piece of advice you would give to aspiring female entrepreneurs?
Do something and learn something, and not just about it's useful, because in startup world, everything is possible. So use your curiosity and get involved.
Okay, Anya, this is my last Breakthrough Blitz question. What's the biggest misconception that people have about being a female entrepreneur, and how do you address it in your own experience?
I think people think that we are less ambitious, but I think how to address it is bring them back to the number. Let me show you the number. Don't need to believe me. Let me show you the numbers.
Anya Cheng, awesome conversation today. How do the Cherish and Conquer listeners and watchers get in touch with you?
Yeah, feel free to reach out to me at Anya, which is ANYA, at Taylor.ai, TAELOR.ai, Anya at Taylor.ai. Or if you want to try it out, support sustainability, you buy a Valentine's Day gift for your husband and brothers and or friends and families for Taylor.style. That's TAELOR.style. And you can use the code to get 30% off. And we will post it in the short notes, which is Cherish 30 to get 30% off. Cherish 30 get 30% off, or you can get Cherish Gift 10 Cherish give 10 to get 10% off gift card.
Perfect. And like you said, those are also going to be on your show notes page. So Anya Cheng, appreciate you joining us today. And thank you for sharing your knowledge and wisdom. And we wish you the very
Thank you,
best.
Jim. Good luck, all of the woman power. Go, go, go. Thank you.
Thanks for tuning into the Cherish and Conquer podcast from Marina. Join our community of trailblazing women at community.marina.ai and get access to exclusive resources, checklists, and guides. If you found value in today's episode, please rate, review, subscribe, and share it across your social platforms. See you soon, and remember, barriers are for breaking.